Let's make Mansaf, the national dish of Jordan. This is the type of dish that needs a very special ceremony to be served. It's the richest dish you'll ever taste. Your blood vessels will definitely feel it, but in a good way. The lamb is soft and tender. The sauce is so creamy from the yogurt and the Jameed. Even the rice is buttery and has some of the lamb stock. This is why we celebrate a lot in Jordan. We try to find any happy occasion and turn it into a ceremony, just so we can eat Mansaf. To start, we gotta prepare the Jameed. This is Jameed. It's dried yogurt made of goat's milk and preserved in salt. Nothing beats the Jameed produced in tariq, an ancient city in Jordan. I'm using 1 head of Jameed today. If you can't find any Jameed where you live, that's okay. What you can do is get some labneh and keep it uncovered in the fridge for 2 to 3 days, so it dries up. Then mix it with a couple of tablespoons of feta cheese. Not the same, but close. Break the Jameed into small pieces, just to make it easier to handle, especially when we need to dissolve it. Place it in a bowl, then give it a couple of rinses. This is just to remove any excess salt on the outer shell. Then soak it in 2 cups of boiling water for around an hour or till it's kinda soft. Moving on to the rice, we need around 2 kilograms of Egyptian rice. It's a short grain type of rice, very high in starch and kinda sticky. It's the only rice that is suitable for Mansaf. Very similar to sushi rice, but it has a distinctive flavor and aroma. Wash the rice extremely well till the water runs clear. Then soak it in hot water for 30 minutes. Hot as in your hand can tolerate the heat. Add a tablespoon of salt to the rice, which I forgot to film. And now for the star of the show, the lamb. Traditionally, you can use any parts of the lamb, especially the head, for Mansaf. So use whatever cuts of lamb or beef if you want. But I'm going with these beautiful lamb shanks today. They're nice, pretty, and pack a wonderful flavor. Give the meat a quick rinse, then place it in a large pot, cover with cold water, around 6 to 7 cups. Add a chopped onion and a few bay leaves. Let the pot come to a boil and start skimming any foam that forms on top. Let the shanks cook for about an hour, or till they're super tender. Once they're ready, take them out of the stock, strain the stock, and set it aside. We're gonna use it for the sauce and the rice. The rice should have doubled in size by now, as it has soaked a lot of water. Egyptian rice is highly absorbent. Strain the rice, get a large pot, add 4 tablespoons of ghee, and once it melts, add the rice. Season with 2 tablespoons of salt, a tiny touch of turmeric. The goal here is to give the rice the slightest hint of color, almost like a fresh lemon yellow. Stir the rice and get it nicely toasted, and each grain of rice gets coated with the ghee for around 3 minutes. To measure the amount of liquid, we need 1 cup of water or stock for each cup of rice before it was soaked. So it's around 2 cups of lamb stock and 3 cups of boiling water. Let the rice come to a boil uncovered, and once you see these holes forming, drop the heat to the lowest possible and let it cook for 20 to 30 minutes. Then you should be left with a beautiful, fluffy, sticky rice. Now back to the Jameed. It should have softened by now. You've got 2 options here. Whether you do it by hand, which is what we call metis. Basically you dissolve it using your God-given blenders. Or just add it to a blender and make it much easier on yourself. Strain the Jameed in the pot. And now this is a kind of a controversial step, but I think it adds much more creaminess to the dish and makes the saltiness way more tolerable. Mix around 4 cups of full-fat plain yogurt with a tablespoon of cornstarch. You want a savory, almost sour type of yogurt here, nothing sweet. Something like Greek yogurt. Add that to the pot and let it come to a boil. Add around 2 cups of the lamb stock and keep tasting it. You want the creaminess and the richness to be more visible than the stock itself. If you want to make it thinner, hey, that's your Mansaf. And now for the seasonings of the Mansaf, or what we call Hawaij al-Mansaf. There are 2 herbs that not many people can get their hands on. Even I can't. Sweet clovers and desert rhubarb, or what we call handagog and otorfan. These plants are native to Jordan and Palestine. Sweet clover has a floral essence with a hint of sweetness, but somehow rich and buttery. Desert rhubarb is very poisonous, but you can eat the stalk as it's less concentrated. It tastes kinda similar to regular rhubarb, but more earthy. These two plants kinda make a difference, but in a subtle type of way. For the common herbs and spices, we need a tiny touch of turmeric, cardamom, dried thyme, chamomile, and mint. And lastly, a tablespoon of authentic homemade ghee. If you don't have any ghee, just use some butter. Taste it, add back the shanks, and let them boil for 20 minutes, so all the flavors get to know each other. I don't know if you noticed yet, but Mansaf is very rich. It's a meal that you can't eat much of. Otherwise you go into a food coma. But you can serve it with something that can cut the richness. Almost kinda balance out the creaminess of the sauce and the fattiness of the lamb. So we need something zesty, acidic, and spicy. My mom makes this simple salsa on the side. Finely chop a red onion and a couple of chili peppers, depending on how spicy you want it to be. But trust me, it really goes well with it. The juice of a lemon, a tablespoon of vinegar, and a pinch of salt. To serve the mansaf, you need the largest plate you have on hand. Place a piece of bread at the bottom. This is what we call Shrek bread. Not Shrek, Shrek. It's very thin. If you ever had Arabic shawarma, this is the bread that they use. Add a few scoops of the Jameed sauce, just to kinda get it nice and wet. Lay the rice on top, the lamb shanks, and for the final touches and garnish, we need half a cup of pine nuts and shaved almonds. Toast them in a frying pan in about 2 tablespoons of ghee. Once they're nicely browned, sprinkle them on top of the serving plate. Don't throw the ghee, just pour it directly on top and let them sizzle on the shanks. Finish it with a tiny sprinkle of parsley. Very controversial, but it's good for color contrast. Cover it with another piece of bread to keep it warm, and that's how it's traditionally presented, with a side of spring onions, radishes, and the salsa. And now for eating the mansaf, what you need to do is pour some of the sauce on your side, a bit of the salsa, take a piece of meat, use 3 fingers to grab the rice. Once it's in your hand, you gotta make a bowl with it. Then chuck it in your mouth like a pro. Now with every bite you gotta take a chunk of spring onion and radish. I don't make the rules, but you gotta make it healthy. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Let me know what I should cook next, and enjoy!